Well, howdy there all you folks, and welcome back to the new and improved Das Customs. I'm your host Das, and it is my pleasure to be coming to you from the new Das Customs HQ. I mean, look at this place. It is light, it is bright. There's no more going to be this dark filming and all this kind of stuff. Look, there's still little things to do. We've got a few little bits and pieces to finish off, but it's mostly there. Today I managed to move out of the old shed completely and straight into it. It is the weekend, so I'm going to make sure I get something done by popular demand. I mean, look, the most questions I get about any car that I'm building is about this thing behind me. And I think it's just finally time for me to just dig into it. Just actually go, righto, let's get this build on track and try and make something cool out of it. Yeah, it's a bit scary. There's a lot to do. I got past the stage of mock-up, and you know, we kind of know that it's going to work, but you know, barely scratched the surface. I mean, this thing needs a lot. So let me flip you around, we'll have a look at it, and then try and come up with a game plan of how we're going to take it from this to at least a running, driving car. Not today, but in the next few episodes, that's what I'm aiming to try and get to. So stay with me. All right, so here it is. This is the Beetle Ute. Australia, we call them Utes, short for utility. You guys call them SUVs, pickup trucks, I don't know, something. We call them Utes, so Beetle Ute, that's its name. And you know, it's there. It's all kind of there, roughly. But there's a lot of issues with this car. I mean, for starters, the front track is just way too wide. I can't even bolt the guards up. It's also way too low. I can't even get a jack under that thing. So look, we need to rectify that. Unfortunately, the 4-inch narrowed beam that I made for this car is now in that car. So I kind of got to decide, am I modifying that beam? You know, it's a nice air-cooled beam. I don't really want to chop it. It's because in the Das Customs ways, there's like, this is going to happen to that, going to happen to that, going to happen to that, and I'll explain. The pan that car's on is a ball joint swing axle car. Yep, kind of cool. I do like it. What I plan on doing with it is putting that pan under that car. The reason being is the pan that's under that car is the pan that I originally built for that car. It's full air ride, it's mint, it's, you know, it's kind of ready to go. So I want to put that pan under that car, which means that that will have a link pin front end. Then that ball joint beam that I built in that car can go back in this car because I need a 4-inch narrowed beam in this car. And that beam, which is a really nice air-cooled beam, can go on that pan to go under that car. Following me? No, I didn't think so. But there is a plan. So what I'm going to do basically to start with is not worry about that front end, because I know in the long run I do have a front end for that car. Ooh, I might even, if I'm really, really lucky, buy a nice brand new beam for this car in between now and then. I know Limebug makes some really nice stuff. There's some local companies, Skin Knuckles. I would love a Skin Knuckles beam. You know, I may contact him and see if he can build me something for this. It's just a very, very nice bit of kit. And seems like this car is going to have nearly 400 horsepower in it, I feel like it should probably have a well-built front end. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back into it. So, I know the body fits. It needs a lot of body work. It's basically there, but it does need a lot of body work. I have started, you know, welding up holes. You know, there's more welding up of holes that needs to be done. There's still rust work that needs to happen. There's a lot of welding and grinding to go on this car. Seems like all I've been doing lately is welding and grinding, and God damn it, I just want to do something else. I just want to do something that's not welding and grinding for once. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull that body off and put it to a side. I'm going to pull the rear tray off and put it to a side and just see if I can actually do some mechanical work on getting this floor pan and engine and gearbox and everything to a point where I could drive this thing, you know, and that's my game plan for now, is get this car running and driving. Then I can start focusing on the bodywork, and it might be something that I do in between. I may even, you know, call someone else in to help me do that, so it gets done to a professional level. You know, there's stuff with this body that I did. I did this body, you know, it was my first project on this channel, and there's stuff like, you know, that kind of has a big bend in it there. I mean, you know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it doesn't mean I can't continue on with other stuff that's going to actually, you know, be nice to do and nice to watch. Anyway, first things first, let's strip this thing down, get it back to it. I've got to get it so that engine mounts without scraping on the ground. It is very, very low at the moment, and the car's not even that low. So I need to work on that. And when I get it apart, I'll show you what we got going on in there. So that's a subframe I built for it. You know, that was a while back now. You know, I'll give it maybe a year that I put that together, and it basically made the concept work. I had to shorten the guards and do a bunch of stuff to make that happen, but yeah, it basically proved to me that this is going to work. Somewhere in here I've got a fuel tank that sits in there and a whole thing, and obviously it needs some tweaking, but look, it gives me room under the engine. I've got plenty of room for the engine to come up as well, so that's what I've got to try and do now. We've got to try and, I'm actually going to take this off. At the moment, it's only held on by a couple of stitching screws. So I'll pull it apart, I'll get it off. And, you know, that's the best part about the new workshop, is each car has its bay. So when it's out, I can put all its bits there, and all, you know, each shelf is corresponding with each car. So this car, all its bits are over there. It's great. All I need to do is go over there and look, and I'll find all its stuff. Rat trap, all the bits for the future rat trap are there. Bulks rod, they're a little bit mixed up at the moment, but we are going to get it to that point. That's the plan anyway. So back to it. I'm going to pull this off. I'll pull the front guards off. We'll pull the bonnet off. I'll see if I can lift the body off solo. I think I can. I think I have a system for that, but to do that, I need to get this back, you know, the back tray part off. So I'll do that now. All right, I've got the front propped up on a dolly and a milk crate. The back, not so much. So I've got to try and see if I can lift that, push it forward, and get it off without injuring myself or come on. Okay. Nearly. Higher. I need to get more height. No steering. Oh, that wasn't too bad. Alrighty, well that's stripped basically. And you can see like the immediate problem is that this thing just has like, it's a million rake, like it's way too raked. I've already got a wild tyre rake on this car. And, that's just, it's excessive. It's too much. I'm not going to leave it like that. So that's part of the problem is, and part of the problem, well, the main part of the problem is these shocks that I've got mounted to the front. They're maxed out like that. So they're just a way too low shock. So I'll pop them out. That's going to give us at least some idea. I'll probably put some, these have got no adjusters in it. I was running this thing on air. So I'll put the adjusters back in so I can at least wind it, up and kind of leave it sitting there. The other thing I noticed straight away is how kittywampus that's sitting. Now, I'm not sure exactly why that is. I feel like it's potentially just not sitting. Oh, well, there it is. I can see it right now. We're not sitting on that engine mount properly. So I'll pull the engine. I think I'll pull the engine. What we're sitting on here, it's a Subaru Gears engine mount. And what that's doing is allowing me to not have to be relying on the engine isn't relying on the trans to mount. The trans is relying on the engine, which I think I'd rather that way. I've got a few options for a nose mount, but I mean, at least we're not just hanging, 380 horsepower off the back of the trans mounts. I'm actually, I've got the proper rubber mounts in the engine. So I will retain that. That Subaru Gears bit of gear is pretty cool. But, I mean, I'm sitting up on those casters and this thing, it's just way too low. I couldn't get it off a trailer. I probably will look at getting, the last Subaru motor I did, I made a pan for it, an oil pan shortened. But I probably will look at getting, you can get these, real nice bit of gear shortened pans. And I probably will look at getting an aftermarket exhaust for this thing, which I'll probably shorten. I want this thing low. Believe me, I like a low car. It has to have a stance. But this car, it's going to be a different kettle of fish than, say, Rat Trap, which is, I'm happy to just drive it like that. I want this thing to actually drive. I want this thing to be fast. I want it to handle. It has a whole different criteria than that other car. I mean, this is going to be my shop ute. It's going to be something that I want to be able to go and put a load in the back of and it handles it. Not a big load, obviously, but maybe an engine. Can I put an engine in the back of it? A set of wheels, something. At least some parts from the shop. There's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. I'm getting into this car after having it sat there for a long time. And there's been a lot going on in my mind trying to, over the years, trying to figure out where this car's going. Look, I'm going to yank the engine because, I feel like that's the next step. And, we'll just go from there. All right, so the good thing about not having things done up properly is it's easy to pull apart. I mean, I've gone from what looked like almost a complete car to this in probably an hour. Let's talk about this thing a little bit, I kind of give you... This car, it really has just kind of grown as I've been going, and I've picked up pieces here and there for it, and it's kind of finally at a stage where I feel like I've got enough stuff to actually build it. And it's changed a lot over the years I've built it. When I originally bought it, I had it on a different pan. That was a reinforced pan, but it was not good. Like, there was nothing good about it. So I was very contemplating for ages what I was going to do with it. And then, I had this pan here actually sitting in a shed. It actually had a 356 kit on it originally that, didn't fit it well at all. The kit was not a good kit, and it was, had been kind of lengthened to try and fit a standard V-dub chassis, missing heaps of parts, and I decided that was not going to be a car I was going to build. It was just too much work. I'm better off just buying a car and shortening a pan for it, which I will do. Never mind, you will see it here. I'm going to build a 356 coupe at some stage, but, got to do something about all this first. So, you know, I had this this pan. It was actually built by a fella, still getting around, I believe. His name's is an engineer named Wayne Horsfall. The only reason I found that out is because it was actually stamped there. And it turns out that the stamping is a phone number. So I called it, and lo and behold, it was a dude, and he sent me, you know, some pictures of what the car originally was. Now, it's a pretty cool thing. Like, it's, you know, I built that bit on the back. He didn't have that. It kind of just went back to, you know, as you see it there. And I had built all of this basically to pick up that rear mount there. And also so I could, you know, come up and over for a tray. So that's, you know, my work. But the original strengthening of the pan was done by him. What I've got in the back here, I mean, when I got it, all the floors were rusted out of it. It was in actually pretty bad shape, and I kind of rehashed it by putting new floors in it. The rear setup came later. It was I just happened to be cruising Marketplace, and it just popped up, and I instantly bought it. You don't see these here in Australia very often. This is the Mendiola. I think that's how you say it. No, I'm probably wrong, but Mendiola, that's what I call it. It's the Mendiola True Track system that incorporates a Fox shock. It does away completely with the torsion springs and has a whole bunch of cool stuff that just makes it cool. The rear brake setup I've got is a John Sherman set from Volks Conversions. You know, I've used a couple of his stuff and have not had any issues with them. So I'm happy to use them. And this kit's pretty well put together. I don't know where they built it. I know it comes from the US, probably from Brazil. So I've kind of got it roughed in there, just basically roughed in there. Like I'm missing bolts on stuff. So I'll now address that. Now I need to go, right, where does this thing ride? How do I get it to sit where it wants to? So the engine sits. Now with the Subaru Gears mount, there's two mounting positions, the upper one and the lower one. Initially, I built it on the lower one. I put it on the one that's, you know, so holds the engine lower, because I was trying to create space for a tray. But it's causing all kinds of problems with the car sitting too low. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to those. I'll plop the engine back on, see how the trans is going to fit into this. I mean, that's the next thing I've got to do. I've got to kind of get the trans working with the engine. Make sure the axles are going to clear. This is a proper IRS half. I actually grafted this half back in here. It didn't originally have that IRS set up in it. So I've got to, the axles I need to sort out. I believe they're combi stud pattern, so T2 stud pattern. They're a chrome ollie setup, an aftermarket setup that I just happen to have. And so what I need to do now is figure out this bus trans, how I'm going to mount it. Now that leads me to the next part of the puzzle that I have, which is, see these tags that are welded on here and the grinding there? Originally I was setting this thing up for air ride. That was before I picked this up. So that's how many times I've changed it. And what I had done was I'd got this, see if I can find it. Yes, this setup here with these rubber mounts. Yeah, that's them. I'll pull all that out of there because I'm going to have to start working on this. So these are a rubber mount, and this is, it's a nose cone mount. Basically what it does is eliminates the nose cone mounting setup that Type 1 V-dubs have. Now this is not a Type 1, this is a Type 2 trans. It's a 3-rib, heavily built trans it was built for off-road Baja racing. Now I have no idea what the gear ratios are in it. The guy I bought it off had no idea either. But you can see, all I can see is that it's had some work done to it. It's, got these hardcore metal side plates and whatnot. So I'm assuming that what he told me was correct and that it is a built trans. I'm thinking, can I incorporate this, with that? So basically these These things here go on there. It's not looking like it's going to do too good with this Mendiola setup, so I may have to, modify this, which, I'm fine to do that. I'm happy to do it to make it work. Yeah, so this is next. This is where basically I've got to get to now. I've kind of mocked it all up. Yes, it all fits. All kind of works. But now it's the details, like, get this thing to actually, the trans to actually mount in there. Like, I've got to make it so it actually has a home. So the engine's sitting happily. I may have to make, extend the tunnel, like make a top thing for the tunnel to actually make it, the shifter work. I don't know yet. I don't know how that's all going to come. And that's stuff that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I've got to make it work. I mean, you can see the ute cab, the floor of it's actually only that much shorter than a standard bug. I mean, we're talking to the back seat there. Obviously, the Beetles have the parcel shelf that goes over the back here. So it's not essentially your front seats. You've got a bit of room there. So look, without talking anymore, I've just got to get into it. I'll pull this thing off, the Subaru gears mount, get it up there, see if we can plop the engine back in it, and in the meantime put some bolts on the ends of these shocks. They keep popping out and causing all kinds of dramas, and just kind of move on. All right, well, improvements have been made. I mean, so you can see I've now gone to the lower hole on the mount, so that's where it was before, and I would say that's probably at least 2 inches of raise in the engine, if not more. And it's done drastically good things to the back here. I mean, I could potentially even just run that stock pan. I don't think I'd have any issues with that, and the exhaust would not be a problem, I imagine. The ride height, I feel, is going to be much more practical. If I do want to wind it down, I've got these shocks adjusted up to the max at the moment, so I can always take them down if I need to. The front. So as I explained earlier, look, I'm probably not going to be using this beam. It's actually too wide. This is a 2-inch. I need a 4-inch just to accommodate the wheels and whatnot. I mean, I am going to be running these wheels on this ute. I do like them. I like the rubber rake. I think it's pretty cool. But that's pretty much the rake that I want to see on this car. When it's driving, that's where I want to be. I want to have plenty of room under the front. Right now, that's a lot more than what I'm normally used to. That would be, I mean, you can actually see from previous use on this beam that's actually worn off the bottom. I've got a good 100 mil, a good 4 inches to the underside of that beam, which for this car, I think that's going to be cool. This thing is looking pretty cool. I've got to say, I'm pretty happy with it. That motor's sitting way a little more level since I've got it in the engine mounts properly. Probably next thing on my agenda, I've got to figure out a front mount for this trans. Now these did have this weird other kind of mount on them. I believe you can get an adapter, like something about maybe you can use a different trans, like nose cone. I can't quite remember. I'll do some research on that. Otherwise, my other option is, I mean, there's another one that kind of, it's like a linkage that kind of goes between these two. I've seen that as well. Between that in there. I probably feel like what I'm going to do is just build up this tunnel and make it deeper. I don't feel like I need to be that low with that. I mean, we all like these tall shifters now anyway, so maybe it's a good way of just using a stockish or one of them, like I've got a couple of them MP shifters, those trigger switches, which I actually don't like much. I treated all the surface rust that was coming back, so that's good. I mean, it's just nice to be in this clean space. It makes me want to kind of, up my game. That's probably going to do it for this one. I feel like There's some research that needs to be done. I need to start looking at the wiring loom for this thing as well. I've got to get a dump pipe for the exhaust. I've got to get some intercooler mounts. I've got a box of wires there, but this motor has just been, the wires have just been snipped. Let's have a quick look at that. I mean, you know, whoever yanked this, they just did that and that. So, but I do have, I got the original wiring loom, which you kind of need when you're doing a Subaru swap, you know, but it's all just been kind of, you know, thatted. There's a MAF sensor and that kind of jazz. You know, I've even got a reverse if I decide to do something. With these Subaru engines, you can just reverse, like it actually, this whole manifold, just, you can flip it. It bolts on the other way. And so what that does gives you is an air feed in the back. If I decide my intercooler, intercooler has to come back here. It does mean you have to move the alternator. Look, it might not be necessary with the tray that I've got, so I probably won't make that more difficult. I mean, you know, we can see the turbo here. Let's see if we've got any shaft play. Now, I haven't really looked at this engine much. I mean, that turbo feels I wonder if that's a it doesn't feel like it's got, oh yeah, yes it does. Yeah, she's got play a fair bit, and that's why it's kind of stiff. So I probably will have to replace the turbo on this. I mean, you know, you can pick up turbos pretty cheap, especially if you're just doing something like what is a pretty easy bolt onto a Subaru engine. All that and the rest, it'll be coming. It'll be coming to you. I hope you're enjoying the new workshop. I mean, it's very, very nice in here, I've got to say. I'm enjoying it. So I hope you guys are too. I'll catch up with you next time with a lot more. This is just a bit of a kind of preliminary, get this project cracking. Here it is. It's cracking. You know, there's that bit of it and there's the other bit. I'll catch up with you. I'm excited. See you.